Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Alain. As you can see, I have a special guest today. She's author on self-defense, Teja VanWicklen. She is here with us today. And before we get started, I just want to remind you, Coffee with Alain is brought to you by enjoylifesafely.com. So you can always go there, check out the free resources, check out the courses, always adding new stuff. So be sure to check out enjoylifesafely.com. And now let's get talking about women's self-defense, a very important topic in today's world with things going on. And that's why I brought in an expert to discuss that. And Teja, since some people might not know as much about you, could you just please introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background and tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what brought you here?
Um, about me, I just wrote a book, Reimaging Women's Self-Defense, how self-defense fails women and how we can fix it. And I've been doing martial arts for well over 30 years now. Um, and I started in Taekwondo, like a lot of people, and I moved through the ranks and discovered it was absolutely had a blast, but it was a sport, and started realizing in my teen years and early 20s that there was more needed. I needed to know more stuff about self-defense, that kicking and punching wasn't exactly where it was at. Started looking into different stuff, dabbled in Japanese jiu-jitsu, dabbled in Aikido, Tai Chi, and a bunch of stuff until I settled on Belinta Walk Arnis, and then finally on Sayak Kali, which was revelatory and genius. Um, and was there for quite a while, and I'm now doing Bagua, which I'm completely in love with. You get older and your body has taken a beating, so I'm into the internal arts. But Bagua is a more combative internal art, so it's lots of fun, hard work, and fascinating, um, and good for the body and soul. So does that about cover it? I've been
Oh,
writing for a long time,
well, that's
but
great.
this
And you
book
live
has
out
been
on
in
the
me
east, and you
forever.
live out on the East Coast, correct?
Yeah, I'm a New York City girl, born and bred.
Great. And for some people think, well, Alan, how did you find this book? And how did you know this was an expert to bring on the show? Well, I was introduced by Jason Brick, and many of you have seen Jason, and we've talked about his books on the show. But then, when I looked at the book, and there's a close-up of it, I see, oh, there's a foreword by Rory, who's been a friend of mine for years. And most of you in the self-defense world know Rory Miller and his books and teachings. So if Rory is endorsing it with a foreword, it has good information. And then I open it up and I see Lawrence Kane endorsing it. You've seen him on the show. He's been a friend of mine for years, and he and Chris have written so many books, and I've shared those on here. Then I see Terry Trahan. He endorsed it. Terry and I have been friends since the 90s and have taught and done things together. I mean, so when I'm seeing all these high caliber friends and experts endorse this book, it's a good one, and that Teja knows what she's talking about and writing about. And that's why we got her on this show today. And I guess the basic thing is, why did you write this book? What was missing or in women's self-defense that you were noticing?
It's kind of a long story. I'm going to try to make it short. I did martial arts for a long time. I loved it. I was indoctrinated. It was my religion. It was just like a lot of us, right? You love it. You can't live without it. Um, but I always had issues with my size, and I was extremely strong for my size. But I was still smaller, and I was female. And when I was coming up, everybody was male and bigger and stronger than me. It was a minority of women. So it took a while to start really asking those questions and figuring out that when real life situations occurred, I didn't necessarily have the answers that I expected to have, having studied the way I studied. Um, then specifically when I got pregnant, I had I joke around and I say I was the first pregnant man because my body didn't want to be pregnant. I had a lot of issues. I was very uncomfortable. I was very weak and tired, which was not like me. I was high energy and always working out. I figured I'd be on the Stairmaster. I'd drop the baby on the Stairmaster and keep going. And that's not at all what happened. And mostly when I had the baby and I was weak, I had all these questions in my head. What am I going to, I'm wearing the baby in a Moby wrap attached to my body. All this stuff that I've learned, how does that apply? Strollers and stuff you're carrying. And I had terrible, terrible mommy brain. I mean, babies just pull all your cognitive faculties for their own private use, and leave you with nothing. So I felt dumb as a doornail and really scatterbrained, and was leaving stuff behind and was confused, and just realized that my training did not cover any of this, any of the questions that probably most parents have. And a lot of women just who are responsible for maybe their elderly parents, or, women are often the caregivers in the family, which means that we're outsourcing our mental faculties to other people, and we're kind of multitasking on a really grueling basis. So finding out that after, 20 some odd years of hardcore training, that I was kind of unprepared for self-defense when it mattered the most was pretty shocking to me. Plus I was ill for the first year, so the combination was pretty loud. So I started kind of just asking questions and hacking. And of course, the first thing I thought of was, what do we do with the physical stuff? Like, how, can I punch? Can I kick? Can I use my Taekwondo kicks? What can I do? What weapons can I use? Can I use weapons with a baby attached to me? Right? What am I going to do? And very quickly, it seemed that the physical answers were really not the best ones. You really wanted to avoid getting into the situation. There is no good scenario that involves fighting with a baby attached to you. There's no superhero scenario. I don't care who you are. There's no superhero scenario where there's a baby attached to you as a shield on your body while you're fighting somebody. There's no good way that turns out. So I started working backwards, and I found that I don't know if you know Eric Kondo.
I know the name. I don't know him, but I do know.
Yeah, he's not-me.org. I believe that's right. And Eric is, he was in a motorcycle accident, I believe, when he was 19, and he's paraplegic, and he is a rock star. He mountain climbs, he skateboards, he climbs stairs in a wheelchair. He builds his own wheelchairs. So look him up, Eric with a K, Kondo with a K. And he came up with the 5 Ds of self-defense. And Mark McYoung, who you also know, I'm sure, came up with the 5 stages of violent crime. And I started hanging out with them and Rory, and I found these, and I recognized they were both 5. And the 5 Ds of self-defense were the things that you do in a situation to protect yourself from crime, and the 5 stages were the stages that a criminal goes through to figure out how to attack you. And together, I put them together, and they just kind of worked really well together. And I called it the self-defense continuum. And I started breaking down from the very earliest stages of crime to the very final stage, which is debrief, which we rarely talk about, right? What do you do afterwards to learn from your situation, to heal better and stronger, and make sure that the next situation is informed by the one that came before it? And so the whole book kind of evolved. It actually started as an online program for a women's wellness community, and we ran it a couple of times, and it evolved that way. It evolved as a map that I felt it felt like self-defense is kind of random out there. You go to a martial arts class, you go ask somebody, and you take a course, or you go to Taekwondo class, or you go to mixed martial arts class, or you go to jiu-jitsu, right? Brazilian jiu-jitsu also. Often. And it's not a full self-defense picture. It's a physical picture from a very particular point of view. So when women ask me, where do I get self-defense training? I felt I wasn't able to answer them. So I put this together because I thought we needed a cohesive picture of what self-defense training actually is.
No, that's great. Yeah, I know, Mark. I have a VHS tape back here on the shelf from 1994 with Mark and I on stage discussing the 5 stages of violence that you just
Awesome.
discussed. And a year and a half later in 95, I was living with Mark. I crashed at his place until I got my own apartment, because he was helping me with my first book, and we were doing bodyguard work at night and training during the day and working on my first book down in Riverside, California. That was back in 95, 96. So I've known him for quite a while.
He's a trip. He's great. Yeah.
Your story and also mentioning Rory reminds me of a time, and this was at Mark's place at one of the annual barbecues years ago. I was
His famous barbecues.
Yeah, I was teaching, Rory was teaching, and then it was Rory's class. So I said, I'm going to go jump into Rory's class. And in the class, he gave everybody, half of us, water bottles. And he's like, okay, that water bottle is a baby. How are you going to hold that water bottle baby and fight your partner?
Wow.
And everybody was like, trying to do this
football
and
carry.
do that.
Football guys are always like football carry.
and I looked at, my I was Drew Anderson was my partner at the time, big tall guy. And I'm like, why the hell would I fight you with a baby? I'm getting the hell out of here. And Rory came over and went, bingo.
You know what? Neither of them ever mentioned this to me, which is just ridiculous. All the talking, they've never mentioned it. That's great.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I still remember that little thing with Rory, and I was like, I'm not going to fight with a baby. I'm getting the heck out of here. And Rory came over and said, bingo, right there. I mean, but yeah, I mean, all those guys, great guys. I mean, I've learned from them. I've been friends with them.
Well, they're thinkers. They're deep thinkers about this stuff, and not a lot of people are. So yeah, they're good brains to pick.
So, I like that part about your book. Now, what could be something you could share with women here that might be watching or listening that would be like one of the biggest takeaways that you could get from your book, and that they should really have it when it comes to safety and self-defense?
So I'm famous for giving people news they don't really want to hear, but I'll give one bit of news they don't want to hear, and I'll give one physical answer. The first thing is that often we are our own worst enemies. And if you want to stay out of trouble instead of having to get out of trouble, which is preferable when you're dealing with violence, you often want, there's a lot of talk about de-escalation, and it's a word that's out there, and it's kind of like mindfulness. A lot of people hear about it and they don't know really what the hell it is or have a deep understanding of it. So de-escalation, essentially, to make it really simple, is not throwing gasoline on a fire. It's stifling the fire. So, and it's actually has more to do with yourself than with the other guy, because what happens is, as I think it's Rory loves to say, we're designed to infect each other with emotion. And there's a reason for that, so that we can live together, right? We play off of each other. So when one person gets really loud, their emotions get really loud, we get really loud, and then they get louder and we get louder. And it's this, right? And if you doubt that at all, if you have children, you know how that works, right? I'm not going to do that. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. And it just gets really crazy, right? Until something explodes. So the first person that you actually want to de-escalate is yourself. And a really good place to try that, I always say, is with your kids, with your pets even, and when you're in the car in traffic. So, and it's a really big thing, right? You're late. Someone's doing something really stupid. It's maybe even putting you in jeopardy. Maybe you have your car in the back seat. What are you, out of your mind? Who taught you to drive? Did you even ever learn how to drive? And you just, right? Everything comes up, and then we do dumb things and we cause more problems, right? It's just like rolling down a hill. So how do you stop yourself from rolling down a hill? And the way that you do it is you practice in small moments in life, and you practice with your kids, and you practice when you're in the car. You first notice, I'm getting really riled up. And then you say, is that serving me? Right? And where is this going? Is this going in the right direction? And in the book, I mention a friend of my husband's who was working in a beauty salon. She was there in the morning. She was always there at the same time. She was always the first one there, which we all know about, changing up our schedules and locking doors and all that kind of stuff. But her ex came in and said, you know, we're getting back together. And she said, no, we're not. And he said, blah, blah, blah. He kept going. And instead of calming down and de-escalating him or whatever, and noting that something was going on here, she told him what she really thought of him and why they weren't getting back together and what he should do with his thoughts about getting back together and whatever, right? You know, this is what you should just take it. And, you know, and she ended up in a coma. So can we notice when somebody is more than just upset, and what can we do about it? And that's about recognizing behavioral precursors and de-escalating ourselves first and foremost. It's not popular. It's really hard. It's why it's not taught in classes, because it's not easy to do. It's incredibly difficult to do. You're talking about hacking into your own kind of quick twitch states. We don't have a lot of practice doing it. So there's the unpopular answer. The physical answer are many, and a lot of it has to do with what can you do, what are you capable of doing, how do you move, what kind of movements do you do every day that you're really good at, that you're confident in doing. You know, are you a dancer? Are you a walker? Are you on the Stairmaster every day, right? Maybe you'll be really good at a knee strike because you've got this knee movement down really well, and with a little bit of tweaking, you can really use that to your advantage, right? If you're a walker, you might be really good at upsetting somebody's balance, or, you know, by stepping on their feet a certain way. There are lots of things that you can use that are in your own movement vocabulary already. One of the movements, and Roy and I actually differ on opinion when it comes to this. We've had a lot of conversations about it. Punching is not something that it's taught a lot as a primary strike, and it's not something that is super familiar to women. It's also, women aren't generally confronted face to face, to the side, angles, from behind, and you can't punch behind you. So you're working on punching, but you know, you're not real strong punching out to the side or behind you, you know? So to me, I think when it comes to women, if you're talking about the average woman who needs to learn something that they can use quickly and not have to study martial arts for 20 years, we want to think about the people who are walking in the door and need something that they can train up to a good solid level in a short period of time. We're looking at something like the hammer fist. And the reason for that is knuckles are hard, they break. The hammer fist is hard but soft. There aren't bones right here, it's padded so you don't break it. And you can hammer fist, right, in many different directions, down below, behind you, right? You can hammer fist, and it has a lot of angles. And then you can load it. I don't have a pen or anything. I don't have anything here. But you can load it with anything you need to, a hard object, a sharp object, in a pinch, including a key, which is what I recommend, is you put your car keys in here and not between here where they'll really damage the skin and be difficult to punch with, which is what people are always saying, put your key here. I say put it here, right? And just carry it here when you're going to the car. So that's my physical tip.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I teach that a lot. The hammer fist, and then, you know, and after I teach it, I said, do you want to make it more powerful? And put a pin, and I'll say, got a key? And I teach the same thing. The only ways to use a key is out of a hammer fist or between your thumb and forefinger if you're just gouging this way. That putting it through your knuckles is stupid. And forget about those old magazines and things that say that. So I love that you said that, because I actually have some YouTube videos and things out there saying that exact same thing.
Well, the biggest problem with the hammer fist is generating power with it. So you do have to kind of figure out how to move your body and get your body behind it. Yep. But the thing about it is, if you have something hard or sharp if under catastrophic circumstances, this is not something you go doing because someone's mouthing off. You do this when you can't get away. Obviously, I have to clarify that. It's a last resort. But you don't need as much power if you've got something in your hand.
That's exactly. And I teach, just to cycle it into the guy's face. If you got that key and you're just ripping the face apart with it, something. Yeah, exactly. And I love that you talked about the de-escalation and controlling yourself. In all of my lectures, whether I'm talking safety, self-defense, active shooter response, whenever I'm talking about situational awareness, I use Cooper's color code. We talk about being aware of what's going on, but then I say, what else do we have to be aware of? And people just sit there in silence. We have to be aware of how we are affecting the situations around, and what we are doing determines our safety or not. And I'll often give the example of, I can go into a bar with Hell's Angels. I've done it. I mean, Hell's Angels have had 2 rallies here in Missoula.
I grew up with them on my block. They used to sit on my steps. I've been on their motorcycles when I was 2. They used to put me on their motorcycle.
But how healthy would it be if I went into a bar with Hell's Angels, jumped up on a table and said, anyone who rides a Harley and wears black leather is an idiot, with a bunch of cuss words thrown in for emphasis.
Right.
Same place, same people. It's what you do that affects your safety. And if you go home.
Yeah, and you don't even have to do anything stupid.
Yeah.
You know, it can just be, you're just not aware of what you're playing into.
Exactly. So yeah, the awareness of yourself is so important as well. And I love not throwing
gasoline,
gas on the fire. A lesson I did in my restraint control DVD that I do in a lot of my lectures. I was at a concert and I'm walking up to this big giant Marine that was causing trouble. And the producer of the concert said, Alan, you need to go take care of that situation. As I'm walking up, he was like, you're going to need more friends. And I saw his Marine tattoo, and I just like, you're my friend, aren't you? I respect you in the Marine. I was 82nd Airborne Division. He calmed down. We talked, blah, blah, blah. But if I would have puffed up my chest and said, it's not me that needs friends.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it would have went the other way.
It's not one-upmanship. It's a camaraderie. Yeah. If you find a point, you find a point of connection, and suddenly you're not other anymore. Yep. You don't want to be other. You want to be, hey, man, like, yeah.
Exactly.
We have something in common.
Dixon is here and had a comment. Let's look at what Dixon said. Oh, wow. Getting people to avoid their own triggers seems like an insurmountable task. Does your book tackle this? Also, can you briefly explain the background of your name? It's so unique.
Okay. So avoiding your own triggers. Yes, I address it. It's a complicated thing, and the book goes through so much. I had to keep it brief. My publisher, you know, obviously I couldn't go deep into a lot of stuff, but one of the things I talk about in terms of avoiding your own triggers has to do with just, again, being aware daily of what it feels like, where you're feeling something. It's an area called somatics. Where are you feeling it? What is the feeling of the burning in your chest or the burning in your head? Some people get twitchy, or their heart starts to palpitate, or when you start to get riled up. And when you start to recognize those emotional feelings in your body, they start to become very obvious. And as soon as you feel them, you can go, then your prefrontal cortex can kick in and go, something's changed. What is it? And what should I do about it? Right? When you become kind of aware of the flavor of the emotion, you can do something about it. And my name is Teja is Arabic, and VanWicklen is Dutch. And that's the origin of my father's side of the family and my mother's side of the family.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, Dixon, and asking that. Thank you. Your book is published by YMAA, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. Great publisher. I've worked with some of those folks there, and I have a couple ideas. I might be pitching them in the near future as well. So great people to work with. And where can that book be found?
It can be found everywhere as far as I know. Barnes & Noble, Amazon. I like to push bookshop.org because they're all the independent booksellers wrapped into one place.
I think Jason mentioned that when he was on the show.
Yeah, you can. It's really cool because you can even buy from your local bookstore, and it, so you can emphasize and, like a certain bookshop from your mom and pop store from your area. So it's pretty cool.
And it would be at YMAA's website, Amazon, Barnes
Yep.
and Noble, but bookshop as well. So everybody, encourage you to go check this book out. And do you have a website or somewhere where you like people to find you, or?
Yeah, my website is my name.com, TejaVanWicklen.com, and it's also reimaginingwomenselfdefense.com. So if you can't remember my name, it's the name of the book.
Great. So, and they can contact you through there, get the book, whatever, any other kind of questions. And what do you do? Any other services or teachings or speaking with any of that, or?
Right now, it's all about the book. I do some consulting on film and media when people are asking about, what women's self-defense needs to look like in a scene, or people, who are writing. But right now, it's all about the book and the next one, because this is actually a really big book, really for. It's not that everyone can use it, but it really focuses on instructors and martial arts, you know, people who have been doing this for a long time, because it's pretty involved, and the next one will be a little bit more accessible.
Okay. Now that brings me up to a good question then. We talk some about, the difficulties women have or some things that they can do. I have a lot of men that are instructors, and they teach both men and women that, watch this show. What would you tell a man, myself or somebody else, that is teaching women that maybe we could do better and make sure we're addressing?
I think a lot of women, and you can't always tell, they won't always tell you. A lot of women who go in search of self-defense classes are going for a particular reason. Sometimes it's because they've just moved to a new neighborhood, or because they've just had children, or because something happened to a friend of theirs, or because they've been traumatized. But whatever their reason is, they may or may not talk about it. But it's on their mind, and they're looking for something that resonates with them and that feels personal. So they probably want to be heard, or have their questions not squashed. I don't know. Everybody is different. Every school is different, but there's a lot of hierarchy in martial arts. I've been doing this for a long time. This was passed down from my master. We know this is how it works. This is what you do. Well, women's self-defense is different, because it shouldn't be from a martial arts viewpoint. It should be from the point of view of the problem you're trying to solve. So maybe be open to what they're looking for, and admit when you don't actually have an answer, and say, let's work these questions out and learn from each other.
No, and that's awesome. And I tell people that too, that depends on the goal of why you're training. And people will go to martial arts for different reasons. And not every art, not every instructor can help you with every goal. And you need to find the one that will. I mean, I used to have people come in and they wanted to compete. It's like,
it's a different
I teach
goal.
Hapkido, we don't compete. Go down to Steve, he does Taekwondo, they have the tournaments. Go down to so-and-so, the judo, they have the competition. But I don't compete. I can't help you win tournaments because that's not my gig.
Yep.
Yeah,
martial arts is a really big area. I say it's like dance, right? And ballet dancers don't do tap, and tap dancers don't do Latin ballroom. They don't know each other all that well.
Yep. And there are some arts that are better for self-defense than others. Some are better for sport. And so you have to find the one that matches the goals for your training. I'm always preaching that. So great advice. It's getting on about a half an hour, and we said we'd do about a half an hour, but I wanted to ask you a question, something, that you enjoy, and how you make sure you enjoy it safely, because that goes with the enjoy life safely theme of, the things that I try to do.
As a recovering adrenaline junkie, which a lot of us are, I don't do that many dangerous things anymore. I become a reader, and I mean, I travel, and obviously I live in the city, and I'm in the city all the time. But I think I don't know how interesting I am in that regard anymore.
Well, even that, you like I said, you live in the city. how do you stay safe walking around New York City?
I think whatever place that you've been in, you probably have instincts that are adapted to those places, which makes it more dangerous when you go elsewhere. When I'm in the city, I'm just I don't tend to zone out, and I can also tell like the native New Yorkers, of which there are relatively few, from the new New Yorkers, because native New Yorkers actually don't look at their phones when they're crossing the street, but a lot of people do. I just keep my head up and kind of just tend to notice changes in the environment. I mean, in New York, you have a lot of people just yelling at the air, and those aren't the dangerous ones. They're not the ones that you got to watch out for. The people shaking their fist at the air, yeah, I think it's just a situational awareness is another one of those nebulous areas. What is it? How do you do it? And I think it starts with just a big picture of patterns, right? What's the normal pattern? What's a not normal pattern? I think Mark talks about that in his incredible site, No Nonsense Self-Defense, nnsd.com, right? He has an encyclopedic site, and one of the things he talks about is you can always name something that's not right by naming what it would look like if it were right. Right?
Excellent.
Not
Yeah.
normal versus what's normal.
Yep. And you, having grown up in the city, you're obviously very cued into what the baseline behavior is. So you can see the deviant where somebody just visiting may not understand what the baseline actually is. And it takes a little observation and a little bit of time to cue into what is the baseline normal? So you can then spot things that deviate from it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the mountains, and I guess I should say that I do construction, and I'm building a cabin upstate, and we do all our own stuff. So I guess maybe I understated. Um, we've built a barn, 2 barns and stuff, just me and my husband, and love building stuff and digging in the ground and using my tractor. um, and and that's actually where I have to work on my situational awareness more, because if you grow up in the country, then the country's noises are loud to you, right? You hear changes in animal behavior. You hear that, like, I don't even notice the helicopters flying overhead. There's so many of them, right? But if one flies over you in the country, you're going to notice it. So it's differences in, and when I'm up there, I've got it. I'm like, what's that sound? That's a strange, it's a different dog in the neighborhood, right? It's like you hear stuff that you don't normally hear, and you notice things more because it's a different environment for you. It's like when you stay at somebody's house and you can't sleep because you hear creaking. To them, it's normal. It's the creaking of their house. To you, it's like somebody's in the house, right?
Yep. Nope. That's awesome.
New sounds.
Well, thank you very much, Teja. It's been a pleasure. One more time, your websites, can you spell that out? Because some people will be listening, and spell your websites out so people can find you.
Okay, it's Teja, Teja VanWicklen, VanWicklen.com. Sorry about the long name. Or Reimaging Women's Self-Defense.com. No dash between self and defense. Either one. That is
awesome. And Reimagining Women's Self-Defense, available anywhere you want to shop for it online. Go to your local bookstore. If they don't have it, have them order it in. It is available. And if you're a female interested in women's self-defense, get it. If you're a male that you're teaching, or you have females in your life that you want to help them with self-defense, get it. So great resource. And it's been a pleasure having you on. And any last words you'd just like to say to folks before we sign off?
Yeah, just when you're thinking about self-defense, figure out what it is for you, what it means to you. It's a very personal thing. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing or study what everybody else is studying. Ask your own questions.
Great advice. Everybody, go out, make it a fantastic Friday, and I will be back to see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Alan.